Hello and a very warm welcome to another video. I've recently taken delivery of another Matchbox case of older toys. It's partially full. I would say it's out of the 3 trays we've got nearly 2 of them are full. They seem to be mainly Superfast era, so sort of late 1970s, early 1980s, and join me now in a walkthrough to see what we've got. The first one that I've got for you is this Audi Quattro, which was made in 1982. It was during a time when these vehicles were still made in England, and you'll notice that is a metal base on that one. This one has the rallying livery. You could get them in dark red and also, I believe, grey as well. So that one is in quite nice condition. The next one that I've got for you is a tractor shovel. I've never seen these in any other specification other than the yellow body with the red shovel at the front, but I think that one is in quite good condition, and the use of almost Hot Wheels style chrome interior allows them to extend that to put a bit of chrome on the engine as well. So that one is a nice idea. We have a sort of wacky little helicopter here, and I don't know if you can see inside, but they've included the pilot in there as well, which I really like, and I can't fully understand why a lot of the other vehicles that die-cast makers produce don't have drivers in them, because it seems to really add features to them. I mean, you know, I'm sure we can all think of some of the Lesney Matchbox cars that have got dogs sitting in the back or looking out the back window, and it just adds an extra bit of charm. But I think that's certainly helping this police helicopter along the way as well. I assume it's a generic helicopter. It's certainly just called helicopter, but anyway, we have that one. The next one is an older one, and this, I don't think this is a scout vehicle. I think this is something else, but you'll have to excuse me because the base of this particular model, it's been a little bit of overpainting on the original green bodywork, and the underside is really quite messy, so actually being able to distinguish exactly what this is a bit tricky. But from the first few letters I can assume that it's some kind of Saracen. This looks like it's older. It's got a little bit of plastic at the top there, but the rest of it is metal bodies, and I would put that more at the sort of mid-60s age. So that's probably about 10-15 years older than a lot of the other stuff that we're looking at, but not in great condition, but a nice addition. I bet a lot of us have had this generic refuse truck in our collections. They did various different liveries and colours, but you remember that this little tab running down both sides opens and closes the rear of the truck, and that works very, very well, though the majority of the truck's bodywork is plastic. It's only the cab at the front that's metal. This particular one just says refuse disposal on it, but it's in very, very good condition. Next one I've got for you is a Honda, I think it's called. This one's from 1974. It's got the very, very nice metal spoke wheels, where the tyres don't fall off these things half as often as they do when you've got the plastic in the centre rather than the metal spokes that this one's fitted with. Of course, the thing with a lot of these motorbikes is, even though they are very, very well cast, and both Matchbox and Hot Wheels are starting to move back in the direction of reproducing a lot of motorbikes at this point in time, they don't really stand up very well. So I'm gonna move on from that one, but it's in pretty good condition and I enjoy having it. Next one has got a little bit of, not so much damage, but there's a little trim piece missing at the back there. This is the BMW M1. This was back when BMWs would make some pretty exciting sort of outlandish cars before they'd sort of become skilled at what they do these days. And this was a particularly unusual looking car, and ripe for a Matchbox model. This particular one's from 1981. I've just checked the base there, but take a look. I mean, it's got opening parts. It's of an attractive European unusual sports car. It's got quite a lot of metal on the model, including a metal base, and it's got suspension as well. Great interior, glass. What's not to like on that one? So another, I don't know, in some ways this was this was one of the great eras of Matchbox Leslie production to an extent. That's one I've got for you. Unfortunately, these transfers, sorry, just get that centre. This one's a Plymouth Fury, I think it's called. And the transfers on these don't seem to last that well. I've had a few of these in different police liveries, and though the paint wears very nicely, however they apply the transfer decals, tampos, whatever you want to call them, they do seem to wear away quite readily, which is a shame. Because of course it gets to this point and you're tempted to actually scratch the rest of it away just to have the clean white paint underneath. But nonetheless, this is yet another example of, you know, windows, bodywork is metal base, made in England, suspension, another sort of glory era of the Matchbox world, I think, on that one. In the construction range in the mid to late 70s, they created this sort of generic sight dumper. I'm assuming this is a generic unlicensed model, as I don't recognise any sort of manufacturer's kind of name on the base of it, but I've got not one, not two, but three of these in this particular box. I don't know which one I like best. I quite like the one with the red scoop on the front of it, but they're all in pretty good condition, and very pleased to have them. Haven't had any of these before in the collection. This next construction vehicle looks like it's been in the wars a little bit, as there is a slight bend in that axle at the back. You might just see that wheel buckling a little there, and there's a bit of dirt on the wheels to suggest it's had a hard life and been played with, and quite right too. But I really like the action of the forklift on the front of this one. You know, sort of like press it and it sort of rises quite well. Of course this piece is plastic, but the rest of the vehicle is completely die cast, and it seems to have a plastic base on this one, but there's a hell of a lot of metal in the rest of it, so it feels a very rugged and well built toy. Anyone remember the rollamatics that they used to have in the early 70s? Well, here's one for you now, and what a futuristic looking thing this must have been at the time. How's that for a door to get into and get out of the vehicle? It's perhaps not the prettiest car, particularly, I mean, look at the front of it, but the rolamatic action on this particular one is you drive it round, and I don't know whether you can see that the exhausts that stick through at the back, as you rotate the wheels, jump up and down. So as you scoot that along, you get these sort of like burbling exhausts firing at you, and it's in quite good condition as well. It's also one of the older ones in the set, so quite pleased to have that one. Next one that I've got for you is a police liveried tow truck. This one's a Peterbilt, just towing the is it a Plymouth, this thing? I can't remember. Oh, yeah, Plymouth Grand Fury this, but this is a police liveried version of the tow truck. It's a bit crude, the way they've done the hitches on the back there, but hey ho, it seems to work quite well, and this one's in quite nice condition. Again, we talked about the helicopter having a driver a little bit earlier on. This one's got a driver as well. Nice little bit of detail that adds a bit of character to it, so very pleased to have that one. And another Peterbilt is the dumper truck version. Again, it's got the same sort of bodywork as the front of the previous model that we've looked at, but this one's got the tipper on the back. I've got to say though, This particular model is in very, very good condition, so when it left the factory, this sort of really flimsy tipper arrangement on the back must have been standard, which is a bit disappointing really. You look at tipper trucks that are 10 years older than this and they have much more metal on them, much better built. So I mean, maybe this was the start of a little bit of cost cutting there, a little bit disappointing, but nice to have it in the set. Not a big collector of the construction vehicle, so it's nice to get them in good condition. Next one is it's just called a Pontiac underneath, but of course we all know it as a Pontiac Firebird Trans Am. It's got the, well, what competitors to Pontiac used to call the flying chicken on the front there, and some of the transfers and the tampos are sort of wearing away on this one. But it's a really nice model, this one. It's got the suspension's quite good, and you might remember that they also did a T-top variant of this a little bit later on in life, but I believe they just brought out the standard hardtop when they originally built this model. So this one is a late 70s example, and I'm very, very pleased to have that one. But this brings me on to the next one, which is a newer model of the Pontiac Trans Am. I'm sure we all remember this from the was it the Knight Rider series, where Kit was one of these cars. I was a little bit surprised that this particular one doesn't have any kind of, the flying chicken is not on the bonnet of this, and it's actually quite simple, you know. It's nicely painted, but there's not a lot going on with it. But you know, nonetheless, I think it's quite nice to have it in there, and towards the end of the metal based era as well. So that really, when you've got that toy in hand, it really does feel like a well-made piece of kit. And just whilst we're sticking with the theme of stuff that you might recognise from the television, Magnum PI, anyone? This one is, of course, the Ferrari 308. I suppose you'd call this red. To my eyes, it looks more orange. This one is the GTB version, so it's got the hard top. It doesn't have the Targa roof panels. Minor paint loss, a little bit on that corner, but otherwise in very good condition, apart from a slightly irritating, I don't know if you can see that crack in the windscreen, which lets it down a little bit. But I've always loved this one. The suspension's very good, and I just particularly like that car in real life, so delighted to have this one. Last of the trucks is this freeway gas tanker. I always like the way that, considering what a small little thing this is, you know, it's the same sort of size as any other Matchbox, just putting that one in front of it to show you the scale. I just think it's kind of cool that they've come up with a way of providing a full articulated rig in the Matchbox size. This one is just called a freeway gas tanker. So it is a generic model, and they did these in a couple of different colours. I think the one that I had as a kid was white and yellow, if I remember rightly. But very nice to see a variation with this livery on it, which I think was quite common back in the day. So great to see. Couple of European Scania trucks. Generally speaking, by the time you got to this era of Matchbox, the big trucks tended to be the American stuff. So it's interesting that this is the Scania. I think is that a Swedish company, but really nice condition on these. Got the nice grille on the front. Nothing to tow with these at the moment, but I'm sure I'll find a trailer somewhere, and you can see that the design in essence is the same, just with a slight variation on the colours used for the tampos, and for whatever reason this has got something on the bonnet and the other one has not, but both very nice. Which leaves me with two European cars just finishing off the set. One is the Saab Sonnet, and one is the Renault 17. The Saab, I see very few of these in real life. I saw a friend of mine over in America had one for a while. He had an orange one of these. It was a fantastic car. But this one is a sort of early 70s one and in relatively good condition, so very pleased to have that one in the set, and that one rolls really quickly as well. And the final one, the Renault, it always amuses me the way that the world of toy cars can sort of polish off the burrs of cars that in real life might not be quite so glamorous. I mean, this thing looks really cool as a toy, and in real life this car was a little bit on the sort of rickety side. It was a bit tinny, and I'm sure a lot of what Matchbox makes is very forgiving to those to cars that fall into that sort of category. But again, my sort of condition, and very pleased to have it. And there they all are, back in their respective homes. I've really liked this particular case. I think this has turned out quite well. I just like the way that there's a mixture of, you know, there's rally cars in there, European cars, American cars, construction vehicles, a little bit of military and police in there too. So the variety's been good, and of course I've got quite a few slots left over to put other cars in. Thank you very much indeed for watching. If it's been of any interest to you, why not leave me a comment, and I've got a few other cases like this that, if there's any interest, I'll go through those with you as well. In the meantime, thank you for joining me.